And now I want to introduce really I call her the fairy godmother of the New York City's tech community. She is really the matriarch of a lot of the work that we're doing. And if it wasn't for her vision and her dedication to seeing how technology gets introduced into the city and how it's accessible to everyone, we wouldn't be where we are today. We are so fortunate as a New York City community to have leaders like Gale. Particularly, we are so fortunate to have Gale continue to be in a senior position to help steward not only our legislation as well as policies. She doesn't like being thanked as much as I don't like being thanked, but let's give her a round of applause. Manhattan Borough President Gale Brewer.
Thank you, Noel. Thank you, Amen. Thank you, John. There's a wonderful story about this open data, which John and Noel and others know, but it was about a 3-year struggle, and it's much thanks to the transparency folks who made it happen. That was in the 2000s, but the reason I got interested in technology is the reason that I think you are. I want government information to be public. So I'm more on the civic side than on the private side in terms of this data. But it has always been true that you'd think that government would produce your data and your information, but in the past they did not. And so that's why we passed the bill. But I got interested in technology for that reason and was put on the technology committee in the city council because I supported a person named de Blasio for speaker, and he lost to Quinn. And then what happened was I got the worst committee, which was technology, not health, not housing. That was 2002. And the rest is history. So we learned a lot about technology, and they learned a lot about health and housing, and we did better because we passed the open data bill. That's the real story. That's the real story. But fast forward to this year, and the work that Noel and the wonderful civic fellows are doing. It's actually been 3 years, and the concept is, yes, we have this wonderful data, but just like everything else, you have to use it, and it has to be used at the local level. I know Silicon Harlem is trying to do the same thing with Clayton and Bruce. But the issue is, thanks to the fellows and to Noel's amazing work, what we're trying to do, and again, it's not easy, is take the 12 community boards in the borough of Manhattan, and with the civic fellows' input, get them to be as savvy as you are in terms of the open data. And the issue here is good news. We just had 1,023 applications for community boards in the borough of Manhattan, and in the past we had 40, 400 or 500, so that's a huge increase. The challenge, of course, is, you can't put all those folks on, so what are you going to do? And it's been wonderful. Today, as we're sitting here in our office at 1 Center Street, there are community boards who are meeting with our staff to figure out who's going to go on and what's going to happen. And I say all of that because literally 100, 200 people are showing up at every forum to learn more about getting on the board. And we are also hoping that as a result, because not everybody can get on, that we would have more, based on the work that the fellows are doing and Noel is doing, more folks working with open data kind of as a circle and an advisory board and a tech front, for lack of a better word, tech posse, because these boards are swamped, only 3 people in the office, lots of constituent issues, committee meetings, zoning changes, etc. And as the fellows know, you don't have a lot of staff time, and the boards are full-time volunteers, members, but they have other jobs. So anyway, the word of technology and community boards, I think in all the boroughs, I happen to know Manhattan, but they're all in the same situation, maybe worse in terms of some of the other communities. So something to think about if you want to is to work with the community boards in your community. Second thing I want to mention is what we're doing with the schools. Aisha, your friend, is here. Where's Aisha? She's over there in our office, and she's been working. The schools are a huge challenge. We're here on school data, but we also have the Department of Education. And there are all the issues of bandwidth and training of the teachers and school hardware and software. I could go on and on, but the the daily issues. But there's another one, which is that how do you get people to use data to expand their learning? And data science is something that we have been working on. We're going to pilot in a couple of schools. Los Angeles has done a lot of it. And what it basically means is you take data and you apply it to your community, therefore the young people, like all of us, more interested in what they're learning, and then you pick up and learn all the other aspects, algebra, geometry, everything that goes with the math and the science, but you do it with data. You don't do it in a vacuum. It's been working incredibly well in Los Angeles, where they are seeing their math scores go way up as a result of interest in the topic. Challenge, you need a curriculum. Challenge, you got, train the teachers. The whole issue of computer science in the schools, I know the mayor's trying, I want to give him a lot of credit, but believe it or not, there is no CS line. If you want to be a computer science teacher, you got to be a biology teacher and teach in that line as opposed to CS, because the State Department of Education hasn't passed the computer science line. Don't ask, we're working on it. But these are some of the challenges in order to get the data to be available to students so that it can be used correctly. So that's another challenge that we're working on. But the Department of Education needs to be more focused on using data to teach, because it is great interest to everybody who's in the schools. There are some really fabulous projects done outside of government. RentLogic takes data from 311 calls and city building inspections and investigations. It compiles that data and uses it to calculate building ratings, helping renters make informed decisions about where they move. Mind My Business NYC aggregates data for small businesses, offering easy-to-use information on street closures, consumer complaints in the area, and permit tracking. This helps businesses understand what's changing in their neighborhoods. And just something fun that will be coming up in terms of a data set, which is that I'm just about to pass a bill, because the borough presidents can pass bills. I read the charter. We have about 50 bills that we've introduced, and we're about to pass our 12th bill in the last 3 years. So it's a pretty good record. I'm very proud of it. We do it with the city council members. But anyway, this bill states that every building has to have an address, has to have it up on the building. Can you imagine how many places you go, at least I do, and you can't figure out what the address is? Yeah. And it's going to have to be up on the main door and the side door if the side door is used as an entrance or an exit. Sounds small, but for the ambulances and for the first responders, it's not small. Anyway, that'll be a fun data set to see where they exist and where they do not. That would be a fun thing to do. And the communities would love it. It's all about how do we get communities to understand the importance of this data. So the other thing I want to mention is when you are using your talents to push government and local community organizations to use open data as part of their day-to-day operations. And it can come in many forms. Obviously, those of you who are members of the community board, or you go, and there's so many other community organizations, there's the police community councils, there's something called CERT, which is the first responder. There are organizations that work in low-income communities, sponsored by the Department of Youth and Community Development. All these organizations, part of our civic fabric, in my opinion, need to be using open data. And I can't tell you that they are. I cannot tell you that they are. So obviously, Noel knows, and you know better how to integrate the data sets like 311 so people can know what's going on in their block. People don't really care what's going on north of 110th Street if they live on 23rd Street. They really don't care, so we have to get that data to be local. Leaving comments on the open data portal, I'm sure Amen said this, and following up directly with agencies when you see errors in data is very important. An error in the agency's data set probably means they aren't using that data properly or frequently, otherwise they would have found the error themselves. And obviously reaching out to do it or to an agency that hasn't published the data is incredibly important. This guy is a hero right here. This one sitting right here in front of me, John Keeney. And he and Gene Washenoff and others from NYPIRG met with the NYPD. NYPD data is extremely desired. And it took us a long time. It was very interesting. The data people, NYPD, were ready to go. And the web people said, hell no. So they asked me and John to try to negotiate. That was interesting. I don't work for the police department, but we did, and we got some of that data up. But here's an example of where you want more data, because you want something that's more granular. It's great to have the 7 most used or most publicized data sets, but you really want to know local summonses, parking violations, things that would be more relevant to the individuals in the neighborhood. That's the kind of stuff we need to keep working on. So we talked a little bit about the Civic Innovation Fellowship, and I want to just say they're building board track. Noel will talk about that later. Attendance is an issue that the community boards don't keep in a way that would make sense for the public to understand. And the other thing that the boards are dying for is a really good constituent tracking system. You can't imagine how little constituent tracking goes on in the city of New York in terms of elected officials, agencies, community boards, but something that we have to work on. So I'm simply here to say you heard a little bit about the challenges at the federal government, but we have the best open data law, I think, and we're going to look hopefully in expanding it, maybe 2.0, open data law 2.0, something that we need to work on. We could get help with guidance on automating data sets to make our cities open data sustainable, efficient, and even more quickly accessible to the public. I see somebody here from Doris. Doris is the Department of Information Services. It is the library, the archives. It is a wonderful organization that nobody knows what it is. It's at 31 Chambers. We sat in this room about a week ago. Wonderful staff member over there. And folks like you sat and figured out for the whole day how to improve FOIL. FOIL is the law that gives you the opportunity to find out what city government is doing. It is a law that is poorly administered in the sense that you can write for information on police statistics, education statistics, consumer affairs statistics. Reporters do it all the time. Takes a while to get back to you. Isn't there a better way that we could work with Doris, work with the agencies on a tracking system, better response, better input, etc. And this wonderful group of individuals, just like you, sat here and figured that out in a wonderful, I would call it Doris hackathon. So these are examples how data can be used in a better way, and it was a wonderful discussion. So we need a robust feedback system where user comments on open data are vetted and tracked and addressed with accountability. We heard from the wonderful director of MODA, streamlining data set through MODA so there are no longer separate versions of data sets available only to internal agency staff, the mayor's team, or the public. We all should be working from the same cleaned up, usable data, and just like everybody else, we want real-time data. So we are all focused on 2018 when we passed the law. 2018 seemed like a century away. We tried so hard to get that goddamn number to be like 2016, 2017, when every single data set had to be available to the public. Up to now, we were able to get, every year the city has to say why or why not they cannot produce a data set. By 2018, those things have to be available. So it's a good year for us to be working this year towards next year and doing all the things that you hear about today. So thank you for being here today. 5 years went very quickly after passing the NYC open data law. It is only because of all of you that it will be successful in the future, and that amazing Noel Fugago. Thank you very much.